Our next speaker, Professor Merlin Stone, who's our Professor of Marketing and Strategy, someone who I know is known to all of you. He's had a distinguished career in business before coming to academia, ranked Xerox, I think, being amongst the companies that Merlin has worked for. He tells his students, and he's told me, that he likes to say that he was born in the first half of the last century. But did reveal, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, or he may do, that he's now in his 8th decade, which I think is a huge tribute to the energy and enthusiasm and insight and knowledge that Merlin has brought. I've only found myself working closely with Merlin over the last 12 months or so, but I've learned a huge amount from him. He's always very willing to give his knowledge and expertise to others, and I know that he will do that this afternoon in the next 8 minutes. Merlin, over to you.
It's amazing what good genes will do, eh? There you go. Anyway, so yes, and I worked at IBM, and I'm here by the grace of God, I think, again, and my genes. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the world that I live in. And the first point to note is, did you know who was the richest man announced today? The richest man ever in the world, Jeff Bezos of Amazon. Beat King Nebuchadnezzar, beat the pharaohs, beat Queen Victoria. I'm not sure if it was relative or absolute wealth, but there we go. Anyway, so what are we talking about today? Well, the world that we educate our students in is very, very different. We know from research that I've been doing recently with IDC, the Information Technology Analyst, that the role of the university is no longer to educate. It's to prepare students for a world in which they will close any skills gap that lies in front of them that we don't know about yet. And you can see that really, really clearly in the jobs that our students are getting now and the experiences they're going through. It's not just an app, it's their whole world, gamifying everything. I really love that idea that people live by gaming. My grandson spent all his time on computers and loves it, and he's not been discouraged, partly because his father works in the gaming industry himself, but he's learning far more than I would ever expect. He's using Duolingo to learn French, which is a gamified and the world's most popular language learning package. So why did I put this up? Well, it wasn't just that I was a train spotter in the, actually the second half of the last century. This is a two-sided platform. So those of you who don't know what a two-sided platform is, it's Uber. It's Airbnb. It's where you can see both sides. The customer chooses the supplier and the supplier chooses the customer. And that's increasingly the world we go to. So I teach my students that before they go and look at working at a place, they go to Indeed.com where they can see what all the workers have said about the company, as well as what the company says about their workers. But they have to make an allowance for fake news because companies will have posted fake employee ratings on that site. This is the world of their future, and they have to learn to interpret it because they'll be swamped in data, half of which will be false, and they have to work out which half is true. So our latest article is on lying in business. Authorities said in the 1960s an essential qualification of the top manager is to be able to lie without being detected. Our students have got to learn to pick up those lies in order to have a decent work life. So, the two-sided platform, what is it? The two-sided platform is one I dream of in higher education, actually, John, where the students will, during a lecture, be clicking and clicking, and, well, they're always on their mobile phones anyway, but what they'll be doing is rating me, not looking at Facebook. And then at the end of the lecture, the Vice-Chancellor will say, Merlin, that was rubbish. How on earth could you have given such a bad lecture? That would be a two-sided platform in education. We're not there yet, are we, John? But I look forward to the time when we do have a two-sided platform, and I encourage my students to think at the end of each lecture, would they come back next time? What did they learn? Did they bother? Did they even engage with me? Or was Facebook, or sorry, Snapchat more, or Instagram more engaging than I was? Okay? Two-sided is really, really important. Uber has transformed our thinking. It's slightly controversial. I did a case study with Transport for London earlier this year, and it was really clear that Uber isn't totally honest. The reason that Transport for London had an issue with them, and I was working with the marketing director of Transport for London, was greyballing. Now, some of you may not know what greyballing is. Greyballing is Uber trying to work out whether the person getting into a cab is actually a regulator who's trying to assess them and deny them a ride. It's really quite incredible, and it was that lack of honesty which caused a problem. But Transport for London knows that Uber is the cab of the suburbs. It's the cab of the student. It performs an essential role for all of us and also for employment. 50,000 Uber drivers in London often has a second job. So a two-sided platform is not just something in the cloud, another area of my research, but it's a real phenomenon. It changes things quite dramatically. Where there's enough density of prime users in an area, a post office has difficulty surviving because nearly all the deliveries are going through Amazon. So it's a very, very different world. And it is changing everything we do. So I decided to put a really poor quality graph up deliberately, and what it shows, the red line is the decline in financial services jobs in London, and the green line is the rise of digital jobs. So we're basically at a tipping point at the moment where the number of digital jobs in London is overtaking the number of financial services jobs. You may remember a few minutes ago, it seems like history terms, where we were worrying about having too many bankers in London. And then we started worrying that Brexit would cause them all to leave. And I say, although I voted against Brexit, roll on Brexit if we have fewer bankers in London and more app developers than bankers. Well, that is happening, and it's happening very, very fast. And it's really, really good news for us that London is becoming, well, is already not just the genome capital of the world, not just the creative capital of the world, but one of the digital capitals of the world in terms of jobs. It's really, really good news for us. And it's good news for everyone. So what we're looking forward to is a time when our students, having started their digital businesses while they're in the third year with us, which is increasingly common, within maybe a few years, I'm not sure they'll become like Jeff Bezos, but they will certainly be making a lot more money than we did in our time. I think I first got mentored 15 years into my career. Today, my third-year students are being mentored on LinkedIn by 80 volunteer mentors that I recruited out of my 12,000 LinkedIn contacts, saying, would you help our students and comment on their assignments? That's the world we're going towards, and that is a world that we see working in our third years. And now one of the first-year tutors says, Merlin, can you do the LinkedIn stuff with our first years as well? Because third year is too late. They've got to get started earlier. So that's our world, and that's what we're going towards. Thanks very much.
That is it. Merlin, super, thank you. And as always, delivered with your energy and enthusiasm that we've all come to expect and enjoy from you. So thank you again for doing that.